Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Deneza, Tsekuza, Skyza, chiefs, hereditary chiefs, delegates, elders, youth. First of all, I want to acknowledge the Dakat territory of the Lheidli T'enneh and say Masai Cho. Thank you for allowing us on your territory. Thank you, Dan, C3, Sarah, for providing some time for me to say a few words to the conference today. My name is Teegee. I'm from Tackle Lake First Nation. My hereditary chief name is Mukshuim Tsimgi. I'm from the Lakshjibu clan. It's a wolf with a white spot on the head. I was thinking about what I'm going to say today, and I will talk much about the Bill 41 that was spoken by MLA Shirley Bond, and thank you, Shirley, for that shout out and that experience that we had in the legislature just a few months ago. And I thought about what has changed since last year. And coming to this conference, there's still issues in the Wet'suwet'en and CGLP. There's still the impending court case with TMX. The only real thing that has changed is that I have more gray hair. No, I'm just kidding. The significant change that happened is Bill 41, is the Declaration for the Rights Indigenous Peoples Act. And perhaps it's that legislation that can allow development to occur at this impasse. And what the Declaration allows First Nations to do is to really reconstitute themselves and perhaps show a vision for themselves, for ourselves as Indigenous peoples, to be self-determining. And it's quite important as Indigenous people to be self-determining. And as we see the situation with CGLP and the Wet'suwet'en play out, it's important to allow that time for Indigenous people to reconstitute themselves. And perhaps reconciliation, especially now in the time of reconciliation, in this era of reconciliation, we can better understand what consent means. And as I stated in the legislature, that consent doesn't mean one government has a veto. Free, prior, and informed consent rather means we must come together. We must come together as governments to come and build a process where we can better understand each other and allow our decisions to be made in free from bias, prior, as early as you can understand what you're trying to do with development, informed. How is this project going to affect my people? How is this project going to affect the environment? And consent. Yes, no, or maybe under these provisions. And as we move in this era of reconciliation, we are also transitioning. We need to transition from this very colonial system that has been posed on us for well over 150 years. And you can well imagine how difficult that can be for our Indigenous people. We need that time to decolonize ourselves and implement our true traditions. And as Dai, Chief Clay Poutney said, bring back the potlatch. Bring back our true governance. And perhaps there is reconciliation within Indigenous land and in Indigenous governance where we can see that perhaps Chief and Council and the traditional governance reconcile themselves, and we can get a better understanding of how decisions can be made. So that's what I look forward to in the near future. And I think we should all be looking forward to that. And as Chief Poutney said, come to this Natural Resource Forum, and if you have projects, go outreach to those that will be affected, those Indigenous people, and understand their governance, understand their traditions, and understand who they are. Because as it's stated in the Delgamuukw-Gisdaywa court case, we are all here to stay, and that's what is important. And that's what needs to be recognized as Indigenous peoples and as the newcomers of what we call this place British Columbia and Canada. And I certainly know that there is an inescapable component to economic development for Indigenous peoples, as it's stated in the Delgamuukw-Gisdaywa court case. And First Nations need to take advantage. We need to move away from program funding. We need to assert our self-determining vision to no longer live in poverty, to have that resources so our people can be well educated, that we can deal with our own affairs with health, that we can deal with our own affairs within our traditional territories. So I just leave you with those few comments and want to thank the organizers and encourage all of you as we transition and as we live in this era of reconciliation to come to the table without bias and come with an open mind so we understand each other and we can make better decisions together and we can come together as true Canadians, as true British Columbians. And I look forward to what will be said here over the next few days because it's important. It's quite important. We're going to see some protests outside, and perhaps there will be more. And I think regardless of what political stripe you uphold, whether you could be NDP, Liberals could be in power right now, Greens could be in power. And I think we'll be at the same place right now. So I think regardless of what political party you're affiliated to, we need to have these tough discussions sometimes, and we can no longer skirt around the issue of Indigenous rights, title, and interests, and also the recognition for our peoples to be self-determining. So thank you. Masai Cho, have a good conference.